Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into the 143. We're coming at you live with episode 212. Nick, how are we doing today?
Doing good. We got our Super Bowl preview. The final game of the season is this upcoming weekend. Bittersweet moment. Bitter because that means the NFL season is over. Sweet because this is about to be the spectacle of the century, I will go ahead and say. But just kidding. No, it won't be. But anyways, got a doozy for us. Just excited, glad to see Seahawks back at it. Glad to see Braves getting the boys there, and we're here to bring you the preview.
Yes, we are. Stat of the Week brought to you by our sponsor, Andrews Logistics. Nick, there have been 3 popes elected since 1979. And in all 3 of those years, the Seahawks were the number 1 seed in the NFC and reached the Super Bowl. So if you're a Seahawks fan, you love to see a new pope get reelected because that means you're going to be the 1 seed and you're going to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting stat for you. Super Bowl week is when all the weird stats come out, so it's prime time for me.
Interesting. Hey, it's a good timeline to follow, I guess, if you're a Seahawk fan. Your player of the week changed to coach of the week, as we are going to dive into this topic for a little bit. Bill Belichick, 333 total wins, if you count regular season and playoffs. He won 6 Super Bowls as a head coach, accrued a total of 9 Super Bowl appearances, but then he won 2 more as a defensive coordinator. So 8 total in the entirety of his career. So sounds like a pretty good coaching resume, as you would think. But funny enough, was not considered a Hall of Fame coach. You ask
first ballot.
Yeah, first ballot Hall of Fame. You ask anybody with a brain, they would say, yeah, Bill Belichick seems pretty easy to me. But then, for whatever reason, the committee, I guess, there's definitely some inside beef that we don't know about.
Absolutely.
I think that I would anticipate coming out over the next course of, I don't know, the near future, but it just doesn't make sense because he has the probably greatest coaching resume in NFL history because he's got the most Super Bowls as a head coach. Obviously, the only thing he doesn't have is wins all time, but he's only
he's second,
10 or so off of the lead. But still, he definitely has the resume to be considered. I mean, easily should have been first ballot bid.
To put it in perspective, I think the other first ballot coaches, there were 4 or 5 first ballot Hall of Fame coaches that have gotten into the Hall of Fame. They have 8 combined Super Bowls together, and Bill Belichick has 8 Super Bowls by himself. So, I mean, a lot of players, and Jimmy Johnson came out, J.J. Watt, and many others came out and said, I mean, if he's not a first ballot Hall of Fame coach, then really who is? He is the great, based on his accolades, he's the greatest coach in the history of the NFL because we grade things on championships, and he has way more than any other coach. And the only reason you could think that the only reasons it could have happened is, number one, Bill Belichick was always pretty rude to the sports media, and those are a big part of who votes. There's 50 voters. They each select 3 people on the ballot that they vote for, and then if you get 40 votes, you're into the Hall of Fame is how it works. So at least 11 people did not vote for Bill Belichick. And it's either that or they, the Spygate, Deflategate. There are a couple minor scandals that happened during his tenure in New England, but to not let him be in the Hall of Fame for just personal bias and getting your feelings hurt maybe 20 years ago at a press conference when he was rude to you or something. It unfortunately taints the Hall of Fame, and just that's not something you want for the NFL. You want the Pro Football Hall of Fame to be prestigious, and it is like the greatest honor in football or any sport. Getting into the Hall of Fame is the greatest honor that you could get, and then you don't put Bill Belichick in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, it's like Brady next year. Like if they didn't put him in as a first ballot Hall of Famer, or 2 years from now, like I mean, you just wouldn't see that happen. So it's ridiculous
just like,
that Bill's
what
not
can
in.
you do as a head coach? Because that's about, I mean,
Yeah, what more do they want?
one of the greatest resumes you could have, and it's not enough. Yeah, so there's definitely, I guess it has something to do with Deflategate and all that stuff.
It just looks bad, though. It
I
looks
have
bad on
seen
the Hall
some
of Fame.
people come out and say something about maybe that, saying that Brady carried him to his 6 Super Bowl wins as a head coach. Don't think that's true.
No, definitely not.
But there's just no real reason to do that. It makes the Hall of Fame look like a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, just they really screwed up on that one.
There were multiple games, multiple Super Bowls where Brady, Belichick, who was big on the defense, like the defense mainly won him the Super Bowl. Like, obviously, Brady's an amazing quarterback, but like Bill Belichick's a great coach. You don't win Super Bowls. You don't win 6 Super Bowls and have a dynasty for like 20 years without a great coach at the helm. And, I mean, there's no explanation for not putting Bill Belichick in. Everyone was shocked. Anyone that knows anything about football knows that Bill Belichick should be in the Hall of Fame. And, he's got a love for the game and a respect for the Hall of Fame that he's talked about multiple times. And so this is probably a gut punch to him. They're probably going to vote him in next year, but it's the first ballot part of it that's important to a lot of people, especially when you should be your first time eligible.
You should have
be
been
voted in the Hall of
unanimous.
Fame. Yeah.
Is what it was as well. But they seem to always get it wrong. They get the Pro Bowl wrong. So I mean,
Pro Bowl is a joke.
Why not do the rest of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not even going to get into the Pro Bowl. It's not even. They should just scratch the Pro Bowl at this point.
It's just become such a joke. Yeah. Not even worth talking about.
Well, let's dive into the Super Bowl, though. Seahawks Patriots Sunday night, Santa Clara, California, where if you take away, I mean, this is it. And at the beginning of the season, if you had told us that the Patriots and the Seahawks would be the ones in the Super Bowl, nobody would have believed you. But this comes down to some great culture building. Those are 2 very well-run organizations as they've seen success in recent years. And, great coaching, great players, just great organizations, and they made it here. The Patriots, a lot of people are saying they've had the easiest path to the Super Bowl. This would be their chance to win it and shut everyone up, because if you win it, there's not much people can say. Now, if you lose it, the noise is going to get pretty loud about how easy of a schedule they had. And then the Seahawks, Sam Darnold looking to prove everybody who ever doubted him wrong and go win a Super Bowl, which not really many people thought he could do. You got a lot of great stories coming into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and especially for Sam Darnold, you look at his draft class of quarterbacks to put him as the one who could be the first ring bearer, I guess, as you could say, would be pretty amazing. But then, obviously, we knew, or I guess at the beginning of the season, we thought Mike Vrabel was going to come in and do a good job as the Patriots head coach. Was kind of anticipating somewhat of a Detroit Lions situation, maybe, I guess, where you don't quite have it the first few years. It takes a season or 2 to kind of get the program built a little bit. But I mean, he comes in and just, scraps everything, I guess, puts all their faith into Drake May. I think Drake May, everyone thought no one anticipated he was going to be this good. They thought they found their guy in Drake May, but, he still went out there and proved himself this season. So, props to the Patriots for just flipping the switch in one season like that.
I think a big part of it was bringing Josh McDaniels back as offensive coordinator. He was the guy that brought them to all those Super Bowls with Tom Brady, and Vrabel brought him back in to coach up Drake May. And we've seen some examples and some clips of him just being a great, great coach to Drake and really encouraging him. And then, they brought in Stephon Diggs. They brought in some guys on the defense, just change the culture, and they're back. Patriots fans, they were boo-hooing when they were bad for 2 years after their dynasty ended, and then just all of a sudden they're right back to the Super Bowl. In the time that Boston did not have the Patriots being good, the Celtics won an NBA championship. So Boston just really has had it made, I think, for the last 20-plus years. And it must be nice. Yeah, it must be nice, man, to always have a successful sports franchise somewhere in your area competing for a championship. But when you look at the other side, Seattle, it was, I think, the second best defense in the league to the Texans this year. Mike Macdonald has really turned them around, really turned their defense around, and brought back that defensive culture that they needed. And Jackson Smith-Njigba has been insane this season for the Seahawks out of nowhere.
Just, I mean, I don't even know what happened. He just became this stud wide receiver one all of a sudden. He looked like he had all the talent in the world to be a good receiver. Obviously, the way he competed in college and then kind of the way he was last year. But for him to come out and put himself in that top tier of receivers is just absolutely insane. And, Sam Darnold, he's had a chance to prove himself. Had pretty interesting career. Did not work out in New York. Did not work out in Carolina. Goes and gets a backup job with the 49ers or whatever. And then he comes into Minnesota last year, has a great season, and then, kind of gets named this playoff choker. And so he gets a chance to prove himself once again this year. And, I mean, hey, he's been proving all the haters wrong all season long, and he's been doing it for the last month. So, one more game to kind of do it all.
Yeah, for me personally, watching this Super Bowl, I don't really have a dog in the fight here. I just really hope it's a good game. I don't want to blow out like last year. Obviously, last year was miserable just watching the Eagles blow the Chiefs out. But this year, I really would love a great Super Bowl, come down to the wire, maybe even go into overtime, just because this is the greatest sporting event of the year. Every year, it's the Super Bowl. Everybody's watching. Don't come at me with whatever soccer people are about to come at me with, but soccer's the most popular sport in the world. Dude, we're in America. You think I care about what the world thinks? We're in America. We watch the Super Bowl. That is our biggest sporting event of the year. One of the biggest events of the year, I would say. And, I can't name a whole lot of other events where America just stops and sits down for 4 hours to watch two teams just battle it out on the battlefield. But Nick, I don't know if you're rooting for a certain team, but we're going to have to give our picks. So who do you think?
I'm definitely riding with the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Sam Darnold get a ring. That's really who I'm mainly riding with, just because I'm saying riding with as in that's who I really want to see get a ring of everybody that's involved on either team. Really like to see Sam Darnold get one because, he had to endure
he's gone
so much. He's
had a great season.
Some miserable years with the Jets, and then some miserable years beyond that where he had to be a backup. Obviously, he was part of a good team, but he had to be a backup, so that's not as fun. And then obviously he was in Carolina for a little bit, which is not fun either. So I'd like to see the Seahawks win. I think they have the best shot to win it. That's just who I'm going with, Seattle.
I think Seattle win would be a great story. My thing, I'm also picking Seattle to win it just because of their defense and offense, just everything combined together. I think they've got a slight edge on the Patriots. And also the thing is, I don't know, if the Patriots want to just be like, okay, yeah, y'all are winning again. The Seahawks would be a great story to kind of
just stacking another ring. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but if the Patriots win, I'm not really going to be that disappointed. But I would like to see Sam Darnold get a ring as well. But more than anything, like I said, I would like to see a tight one. I'd like to see some incredible moments from those players. But in the Super Bowl, to win that game, your stars got to come out and they got to shine. And we'll see whose stars are coming out. I think it's going to come down. It's honestly going to come down to the quarterbacks because there are question marks around both quarterbacks. There have been all season, and it's time for them to prove it. Drake May's had a rough postseason stat wise. I don't think he's going to be able to get away with having a bad game in the Super Bowl.
I mean, with everything that's gone on for them, for their what people are calling their cupcake schedule, for their cupcake playoff run that people want to say that they're having, like you said at the beginning, you get a game to kind of shut everyone up and prove them wrong. So, you just got to go out and play your best 60 minutes or whatever, and we'll see what happens. Just thinking about, because this came up on Twitter, and I've seen it on Instagram before, just a heartbreaking career in Seattle for one. Tyler Lockett, if you think about it.
Got to give him a shout out.
Just got to mention that one just because the timeline is so grim.
It is.
In 2014 and 2015, the Seahawks made back-to-back Super Bowls, right? They won the first one, lost the second one, and then a couple months later, they draft Tyler Lockett, and he spends 10 years in Seattle. And by the way, he was a stud for them for
he was a great receiver.
Every single one of those years was Mr. Consistent. And then the past offseason, he gets traded away. And so what happens? Seahawks are right back to the Super Bowl. And so that's just kind of unfortunate because when you think of the Seahawks, you would associate it with one
You'd usually think of Tyler Lockett.
And he just never got to have it. I didn't really think about that until I actually saw the timeline that it was like, man, he was literally smack dab in the middle of 3 Super Bowl appearances. So unfortunate for a guy like him.
Absolutely.
He would have been one deserving to get that ring, but can't always get what we want.
Nope, can't. But Tyler, I'm sure Tyler's gonna be watching, rooting for the Seahawks, and
that doesn't have anything to do with anything, but it was just interesting to look at.
It's tough to be Tyler Lockett. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure he's pretty disappointed right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. But doesn't matter. Here's in our show's an under-review. Gratitude quote from the Vince Lombardi. He said, "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence."
Ain't that the truth? Chase perfection this week and enjoy the Super Bowl Sunday night. As usual, we will bring you the recap next week. We thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week, another episode of Under Review.